Hello friends, I'm out in the garden. I have my hat backwards just so I'm not covering my eyes fully when I say hi. We're out here and we're gonna start garden videos off for 2025. I have not done one garden video yet this year, and we're getting towards the end of winter, early spring, and that is when I trim my fruit trees. That's why I'm over here in my mom's orchard that I planted about 8 years ago. All these I planted from whips. Now, behind me you may see every so often a couple friends making a debut. I have my dog Kip here and I have my mom's dog Max, and they are playing together because when I'm outside working in the garden, it is best to keep Kip entertained. And the best way to keep him entertained is with a play buddy. So he's with Max, and you might see a really big dog and a really small dog running around. So these fruit trees I planted, like I said, from whips, meaning I had the chance. They were all just pretty much a stick when I planted them 8 years ago. And I've had the chance to shape them into the tree and fruit tree method I like, which is an open vase style pruning method. Now there's multiple types. You can do just a traditional central leader, like any tree would grow. You can do a modified central leader, which is where you cut back the main leader just to kind of knock the height down. And you can do open vase like I'm going to do today. Open vase for me, what I like about it is these are not grown for ornamental trees. These are purely grown for fruit production. And while they're beautiful trees, I like to make sure they can have the most fruit possible. And for me, open vase works well. It means you open up the center of the tree into a V or like an open vase shape, and you have the best light circulation, air circulation, and overall fruit production by training the branches to grow out laterally so they're easier to pick. So my favorite one is actually, I have a favorite fruit tree. It's right behind me because it has the best shape. I think I've been able to make that one, that apple tree, into a just glorious shape, and that's the one we're going to talk about today. Hopefully hitting pruning, how I get ready for any pests coming this season, the first defense I do, and some fertilizing. For a better close-up here of this tree, from when I'm standing about 30 feet away from it here, you can see the shape. And the shape is right now kind of like a V, but you don't notice maybe from a distance that the center is pretty open. And that's because here, after a season of growth, I need to do some pruning on it. So what we do is we have really two main types of pruning we do, and that's getting anything that is going to suck the life out of a tree and really gonna hamper fruit production, and then anything that's crossing other branches that could cause scarring or really just kind of hurt the tree overall. So already all my main branches pretty much are cut and shaped at this point. You can see right here, originally this whip, probably around that 3 to 4 foot height is where I knock down the central leader and let it start branching out into its main branching. And now I'm gonna go in and start doing pruning. Some of my favorite equipment is right here in front of me. So I always like to have just a good secateurs, a good hand pruners, sharp, make sure everything's clean and sharp. Now I just started using these, so they're gonna look dirty, but they were sharp and ready and clean to go. This is a loppers. This is a short-handled loppers, which is, for me, just sometimes a little bit easier on fruit trees that I have a little smaller space I'm working in. And then some type of good saw. Now this is a little bit larger one than is needed for some of these trees, but even though these trees are, like I said, getting aged enough where they have kind of their main branching, I sometimes will take off a little bit bigger piece. And so having a good sharp saw is gonna make really that just kind of that much easier. And this one really does, having the right tools really make a huge difference. I know over the years I've thought, I don't need the right tools. I'm not gonna sharpen my secateurs or anything like that. But then the problem is you go in and if you don't make a sharp cut, you actually damage the tree more. You're gonna rip a little bit or tear a little bit of the bark or the branching, and that's gonna create an open wound that will take longer to heal, be an open spot for any pests to come in. So it really is best. So there's two main types of branches we cut off, and it's suckers and water sprouts. Suckers grow from the base of the tree, which let's go over here to this one right beside. I just wanna show you so you make sure you know. You look down here, these are suckers. See how they're kind of coming up from the roots of the tree? Almost every type of malice, which is an apple, is going to have some type of sucker. I'm sure many of you have crab apples, ornamental flowering trees in your yard, and they have lots of these. You're not gonna necessarily get rid of them. You just wanna trim them off at the base, no big deal. The other one is water sprouts. And water sprouts on a fruit tree are kind of any of the ones that to me suck energy from the tree and do nothing beneficial to it. So from a distance, the easiest one here I can see is this one right here. So if you look really closely, and if we come in, this one is going straight up from a branch or a trunk of the tree into the tree. That is a water sprout that is gonna do really nothing beneficial. And we're just gonna go in with a nice sharp cut. And it's always good if you can cut at a slight angle when you're doing it, which if any of you have been following me, by the way, I should tell you, I had carpal tunnel surgery on both hands over the winter. So I'm taking this slow and just going tree by tree as I can and making sure I don't overdo it with my hands. Okay, I made that cut and I'm gonna remove this. So this you can see is a very straight up and down branch. That's a lot of the ones that I'm gonna be pruning off are gonna be like that. And a lot of them you can see here, I have cut before. So you'll come back and just cut those water sprouts off again. And when I really start cutting, I'm just gonna set this up so you can see as I go, you're gonna start noticing this tree opening up. That's gonna allow more light and air to come through. And the reason you always wanna make a cut at a slight angle, you want any water to whisk away from that cut. That's why a sharp cut is important, so it heals well and nothing sits right on top. So what I want you to see is about halfway through what this tree is looking like, and you're gonna notice a drastic change. Now, some people, I think what is interesting is we all come from different perspectives on tree trimming and fruit tree trimming specifically. I come from growing up in a family that you grow these trees purely for their fruit production. So you do whatever you can to enhance that fruit production. And this is always what works best. Now, if you notice at the top, I've drastically done what's called heading cuts at a lot of the branching. And I wanna take you in and show you why I'm doing that, because you can notice this half of the tree is a lot less, it is knocked down a bit, and it's just less sticky kind of now throughout. The other half I still have to finish, but let's go in and look at it and see what I've done. So if we go in, what you're gonna notice is I'm starting to try to train the tree to always have branches that want to keep the open vase, but then shoot out laterally. And eventually, if I can do it, I'll have them come back down. So what this is gonna do is really create a more horizontal canopy of all of these fruit trees, all these apple trees, which will be more light hitting all across the tree for better fruit production, but also make it easier to be able to pick the apples. So instead of having apples that go way up high, you have to get big ladders, you can either just use a step ladder or something smaller. So if you notice, like if we come in here, let's look for a really good heading cut here. Right up there, actually, I like that one. So if you notice, I cut this big branch that was going up, I cut it at the top at an angle, and then left this nice branch that was coming out this way to keep more of a lateral shape to it overall. Now, in time every year, sometimes I'll take off a few more or kind of just re-choose my shaping. Along with that, as you look, this half of the tree that's done, all the branching that was going into the center of the tree, it's all cut out so it looks a lot more clean and open inside. So if we kind of go up in here into the middle, you can see a lot of this is cleared away. There's a few more here I need to actually pick out and move. But you can see there's a lot more now openness into that tree, which is what I'll finish now on the other side. That's gonna again allow that light to come down into the center of the tree to hit more blooms across and really just have more apples overall. And it creates a really nice solid tree too to be able to hold up the apples. You can really see now how I'm trying to keep this shape of an open vase, but then also make it start going out laterally. I hope you can see that. This is to me kind of the exciting part of starting a fruit tree from a young age, which we usually can all find obviously small trees, whether they're whips or kind of a nice more branched out tree. You know, what's great is you can really create whatever method you want to prune. And honestly, what I always say is my orchard here is my school, it's my test garden, it's where I'm learning as I go also. It's what I grew up with, and this is the same method we used to prune those trees when I was growing up, and I've adapted that too. So if you want some great reading material, I definitely think you should research this somewhat on your own too to find what method's gonna work best for you. Lee Reich has some great books on pruning, all fruits, fruit trees, everything. What I do like to do now is go in and start removing just a few more of the smaller water sprouts, which I'll take you in here so you can see them right here, like on this branch. You see a lot of these small little ones that are going straight up. I probably prune off about half of these little water sprouts overall, and then allow the rest of them obviously to flower, and it will still, you're gonna be surprised. Every year I get a lot of apples off these trees. And so even though I do some drastic pruning, I still do get a lot of apples. Now I also want to show you, if you look over here, right here, these two branches are starting to cross each other, and you can tell there's a scar here already from last year. So I want to go in and make sure any crossing branches like that are removed, because that scarring is going to create bruising that's going to eventually create a wound that will just kind of deter good growth and also be an area for pests to get into. My spring checklist for trees after pruning includes a little bit of fertilizing and then some pest maintenance. So fertilizing is pretty simple. You know I love Espoma products. I don't want anything that is going to be synthetic. I don't want anything that's going to burn the tree or be too much or just kind of push foliage growth. What I want is some great organic fertilizer that's going to feed the soil, which in turn will feed the tree and help it be the strongest it can be. So I use Espoma Tree-tone on all my trees, and it's just putting it around the base of the tree and raking it in. Why I like to do it early, it will get in on some spring rains that we always hope and pray for, right? I love spring rain. And so I always will just put it on right after I prune, just kind of one of those checklist items that I can make sure I do. Put it around the base. I didn't bring a rake with me, so you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna rake it in a little later, but I did use a shovel here just to smooth it out. And then I can just rake it into the soil. Usually I like to top dress these in some mulch too. My last thing in my checklist is to spray all seasons dormant oil. Dormant oil traditionally is sprayed when things are dormant, certain temperature, and it puts a light coating of an organic kind of, think of it like a wax almost, on the tree to help protect it from different pests that can happen. I like to use all seasons dormant oil because it can be put on at any season. It doesn't have to be just in the winter. So I can use it throughout the season as needed. But I don't only use it on my apple trees, I will use this on also my lilacs, because I can get some borers on those and scale really bad, can really help with the scale. I use it on my apples and all my fruit trees for black spots, some different kind of like pests like that I can get early on in the season that can kind of go into the fruit and start making those marks. And I just find if I can give it a nice light spray when everything is dormant, it just always has a better year. That's my checklist for spring pruning of fruit trees. Now, I do have probably around 25 trees out here, so it does take me a while. I started yesterday, got about 3 done. Since I had carpal tunnel surgery this winter, I am taking it kind of slow, just not to tax my hands. So if you noticed it was taking me a little bit more effort on some of those cuts, that's why. I'm just trying to take it easy on my hands. But you know, really what I have found was pruning trees in the long run is better for the health of the tree, but also pruning these fruit trees is going to be better for more production of the fruit. You know, I'm hoping to have these trees for a full lifetime, be able to have them produce multiple bushels of fruit. We love to make applesauce with the apples. We love to make apple cider. We love to bake with them. We love to eat them. So making sure I can maintain healthy trees is really going to do that. Obviously, as always, research fruit tree pruning for yourself. Look for the method that you want to try out, read about it, start trying it out. That's the best way to learn. And I always just hope to pass on a little bit of what works for me. As always, share this video around. Sharing means other people can hopefully learn too. And until next time, I have a lot more trees to prune, so I'm going to keep going.